I did not need to purchase this at all because I'm impulsive. Well, here's an unboxing. This is the A16 iPad with Wi-Fi, and it's only got 128 gigabytes of storage because I'm a cheapo. You guys need to buy this if it goes on sale because regularly it's at $350, but I managed to get this for 300 bucks. Well, technically 315 if you count taxes. But enough horse caca people, let's get this thing opened. Why, thank you, Apple. I really do appreciate it. You know, not all devices include these charging bricks as well as the cable because they're too cheap to do so. So, thank you. Seriously, this is just like my Mac Mini. They don't put too much in these boxes, which is amazing. I mean, because this is really all you need. You know, I've come from shitty tablets like the Galaxy Tab A7 Lite, and that thing was extremely slow. I mean, this is it right here, and this was from like 2021, I think. I mean, at this one, it's already 5 years old, but you know, it's a budget tablet, so you know, it only does the basics, the necessities. I don't know how the hell I nicked it, but somehow I got like this bump right here. The funny thing is, I mean, I still have the box, I still have everything for it, but you know, I wanted to kind of connect to my iPhone and my Mac. But more importantly, I didn't want to have to use my iPhone every single time I got home from work, you know, because this is more of like my on the go, like portable device, and this is like my at home device. So I can sync everything, you know, from here to here and, you know, vice versa. But I also felt that I wasn't really using the Galaxy Tab that often. And, you know, that was because I realized that I wanted to have iMessage. I wanted to FaceTime, call and text my girl whenever I got home, you know, instead of having to put this up and go check it periodically and stuff like that. But also, it's a pleasure watching YouTube videos and Netflix, you know, on, you know, stuff like the iPad because, you know, it's a bigger screen, you know, and it feels like you're watching a mini TV rather than a small phone screen where you can't really see much of the details. But for shits and giggles, let's play around with some stuff. If I gotta be honest, tablet cameras are not really great, but this one actually isn't too bad. In fact, here are some pictures that I took so you guys can see those. I'm actually shocked this thing can record in 4K at 60 frames per second. That's insane. Like my camera that I'm using right now, the ZV-E10, can't even shoot at 60 frames per second at 4K, but yet this can. All right, really important. I want to see what OS version we're running because that's one thing I was meaning to check and I forgot. So let me see. Oh, we're at 26.4.1. So we're actually up to date, which is pretty nice. I think when these first shipped out last year, they came with 18, I believe. So it's really nice to see that this is running 26, which is the up-to-date version. All right, so after messing with this thing for about a few hours, actually it was like all night that I've been messing around with it. And I like this thing a lot. Like it's actually really good and it is way, way better than my Galaxy Tab. You know, because I can do everything that my iPhone is pretty much capable of doing. Well, not 100%. I mean, it doesn't have Apple Intelligence and it's running on an older A16 chip and, you know, stuff like that. But it also has its own thing going for it. The biggest thing for me is the Touch ID, which I can just whoop, you know, sign in. I didn't get that on camera. I gotta whoop. I actually set that up off camera because I wasn't sure if I wanted to use it or not. But actually, I like this feature quite a lot too. The other thing is multitasking, which is something that I've never seen on the iPhone. Now, On the Mac, it's nothing new. Obviously, you can multitask, but with this, you can do it as well, and it actually does it pretty well. Consistently, it doesn't give me any problems at all. Consistently, it runs really good. Speakers are pretty good. I didn't take it in the shower with me because I didn't want to get all moisturized and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I ended up using my speaker. It's like one of those cheap speakers, and it does a okay job. But I definitely am wanting to get a case for this, and especially using it at night. It doesn't feel incredibly big, although I do have to kind of get used to its size a bit because I'm used to like smaller tablets, especially my phone, where I'm lying on my side and I'm like typing shit in. So that's kind of something that I'm willing to get used to with this thing. Honestly, this thing, I'm definitely impressed. And, if I can spend that long with it, like listening to music, taking notes, and doing all these different things with it, um, this thing is an absolute winner in my book. And it's one of the best tablets I've owned. A lot of tablets that I've gotten, I've gotten shitty tablets. I've gotten the Fire 7, then I got the Galaxy Tab A7 Lite. Because I didn't really feel like I needed, a high-end product to do the job, which is why I didn't go with, the iPad Air or the iPad Pro. Now, don't get me wrong, those products are nice and they will definitely last a long time. At the same time, I didn't need all the features that they came with, because they're going to cost at least $100 more. While they're not bad choices, I don't feel like those tablets are for everyone. And in fact, you can get by with just, something like this. You might be thinking, why didn't I go with like the ninth generation iPad? While that is significantly cheaper than something like this, which is around like 150 bucks, you know, I've heard some stories that it actually doesn't do too well with iOS 26. Well, it does okay, considering that it supports it, and that it will get iOS 27. So that was one of the tablets that I was going to consider. But then the downside that you get for the price that you pay is, performance definitely starts to suffer. It's an older tablet, so batteries will disintegrate, especially if, it's used. And it just doesn't last that long. You're not going to get updates in the near future, and everything's just going to feel outdated, and it's just going to feel really crappy and slow. On top of that, you only have 64 gigabytes of storage, which is, half of what this has. And uh, it's not really suitable by any means today, for some people. And, if I would have went with 256, I would have been, it probably wouldn't even been justifiable to buy it. I would have rather just bought this instead. And actually, the use of storage space has been pretty good too. I thought I was going to be out of storage or like near running out or probably at least halfway with this thing. Um, but I've used about only 30 gigabytes so far. And, I still got plenty of space to keep going. And that's another question you might have too is why didn't I just go with a bigger size? And, well, money is one thing, but also, I wasn't going to be power using the living crap out of this thing. Meaning that I'm not going to be loading it with a crap ton of apps because I really don't need a crap ton of apps. Overall, like, for the average person, I absolutely recommend the A16 iPad. The A16 is still a really good chip. And one thing that I also found out too is that this was actually manufactured in April. So that's literally 2 months from now, despite this coming out last year. So no wonder why it had iOS 26 on it already. Again, I would absolutely recommend the A16 iPad to anyone looking for an iPad. If you're willing to spend a little bit more for something that's going to last you at least 5-7 years down the line, this is probably one of the best tablets you can buy right now. But obviously, if you do want to spend a little more money and if you want the extra fancy features that come with them, get an iPad Air, or better yet, get an iPad Pro.